What do you know about you and your team that makes you feel like, yeah, we can still fight, we can still battle here?
We've been here before. That's how I look at it. We've been overlooked since last year. This is not like it's unfamiliar territory with us. We've been the least favorite, how do you say it? Like the not favorite team in both series last year. So for us, this is the same feeling. I think we just got to, like I said, control what we can control. We could play a perfect game, and they have two all-stars who could take over a game. And that could be the case. But for us, as long as we do what we do, we're not going to get too excited, not going to get too high, too low. Just understanding that it's one game at a time. And if they take care of two at home, that was their job. They did that. Now we got to go back and take care of two at home. So for us, as long as we do that, as long as we stay focused on what we can control and what we do, we'll be in good shape.
You guys have what not everybody has in the playoffs, which is a distinct home court advantage when you're home. What is it like when you walk into that building, even if you've got James Harden walking in there with you?
You get confident. I think it reminds me a lot of college. To be honest, coming and playing in Utah, like just the fact that everybody's out there just kind of screaming and yelling, booing every call, even if it's the right call or even if it's like whatever it means, they're just booing. And I think it gives you that college feel, that college atmosphere, and it gives you, those moments where, if we're up one and we need to stop or down one and need to stop, it gives you that feeling of like you give it more energy. You're ready to go. You're kind of riled up, and I think that definitely helps on the floor because there are times where you need it. There are times where you need to dig deep. You could be exhausted. You could be doing whatever. You could be hurt. Whatever it is. But you hear that. You hear the yelling. You hear the cheering, and it kind of brings you back to life.
Talking about comebacks, you had basically a comeback through this entire season. Which is not what we would normally expect for a guy who was such a serious candidate for Rookie of the Year. But you expected it. You actually went into this season thinking it was going to be harder. Who did you get advice from?
Johnny Bryant was one of the assistants, and he was one of the first to kind of tell me, that it's going to be different. Was nonstop text messages. I was hurt, obviously for most of the summer, so I didn't really know. I didn't have time to like kind of be like, all right, you prepare for this situation. Then I'm playing catch up. So then I turned to, with my guys, Dwyane and Chris, and just asked them,
Dwyane Wade, Chris
Dwyane
Paul.
Wade, yeah,
I just
Chris
want
Paul,
not everybody can just be like, my guys, Dwyane and Chris. Dwyane Wade, Chris Paul,
Chris
for
Paul.
the people out there.
Yeah. They really, I talked to Dwyane for about 2 hours. It's been documented that we talked for a while, and I just talked to him just about what to expect in year two. Obviously, he won a championship in year three, so like obviously you had to have done something in year two to get you to that point in year three. And I asked him like, what was it? What pushed you? What motivated you? What was the hardest part about it? And really, it was just the coverages. My whole life I've been the underdog. In every category. When it came to basketball, I wasn't even a basketball player until late. So for me, having the bullseye on your back was a different situation to be in. It was unfamiliar territory. So not only going through what I went through this summer, but then having everybody target you specifically, I think really, opened my eyes a little bit. And it's one thing to hear it. Coach Quinn and Johnny really let me know a bunch of times. And it's one thing when you hear it, and it's another thing to go through it. Once you go through it took me a little bit longer than I anticipated, obviously. And I think it got back to a point where, you heard the noise on the outside, and, that really got me going, to be honest with you, really like you just familiar ground. And I think that's really what it was, and then I got to a point where I didn't have to rely on, the negative comments, more so just going out there and playing my game.
I mean, it was tough through November. I mean, you had a game where you top 30 points, but 0 assists.
Yeah.
That's not like you.
No.
You were a mess at the free throw line a bunch of the first few months of the season. Was there a point when you were going through the thick of that where you doubted anything?
I think what made it worse was when we started losing as a team. Because my thing is, if I had been struggling and we were winning, I'm not overreacting, but we were losing, games we should have won. We were losing games badly. We lost to, I think, Dallas by, 50 points, and, just as a whole, it kind of puts more pressure. I put more pressure on myself thinking it's on me. I think that's one thing that really kind of hurt me, not understanding that, like, it's not just a individual thing, like just because I'm not playing well doesn't mean the team's not playing well, because we've had games where we've played terrific and I haven't played, it's not like it's just me, but for me, I take that leadership role, I take that role seriously, and there was times where you're like, you know, maybe like a one-hit wonder. You know, like maybe this is, you know, maybe it was just because no one knew who I was and I came and just shocked the NBA. But, you know, the biggest thing is my teammates and coaches had my back, you know, and they all were like, it's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. I got to the point where I was like, all right, like when? Like, you know what I mean? I hear you guys saying that, but when? When is it going to happen? And, you know, sure enough, January comes around and it just switched.
One of the people you got advice from when you were trying to turn things around was, ironically, James Harden.
Yeah.
What advice did he give you then you can use against him now?
You know, it's funny, you know, you ask all these guys, you know, what do you see here? Like last year it was PG, you know, and this year it's James and CP and all those guys. But, you know, for me, he really just told me, like, you know, just stick with it. You know, it's not all going to just be gravy. You know what I mean? It's not all going to be great. You know, there was times when he was in OKC where, you know, things weren't, you know, going great. You know, he was playing well, but things weren't like what they are now. You know, and I think it's a little bit of adjustment period, and that's really, you know, we worked out with each other over this past summer, and he was saying the same thing. Like, it's not always going to be what you think it is until you get to a point where you can slow the game down yourself, and you know, it's completely different. And you know, you take that advice and you try to apply it. And you start to get impatient, and you're kind of like, when, and then when it happens, that's when you kind of sit back, and you're like, oh, like I see what you're saying now.
It's not always going to be great, but you can dig yourself out of it. Sounds like good playoff series advice.
Exactly.
Right?
You know, it's gonna be a battle on both sides. You know, it's gonna be a war. You know, and like I said, it's not always gonna be easy. You know, you're gonna be banged up. You're not gonna walk out there with no scratches, you know, no bruises. But, you know, as long as you stick with it, you know, stick with the game plan, and we'll be in good shape.
I want to talk about some of your off-court activities because you are already, in your second year, one of the most mindful players of the fans and the people around you. You just in this last month, you handed a $25,000 check to a college student to help her with her tuition. And then there was little Evie, who was amazing. Parents put a video on social media of her stomping and refusing to go to bed because she wanted to watch Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell!
We can watch him this weekend when he plays again, okay?
Donovan Mitchell!
I'm sorry.
Donovan Mitchell!
When you saw that, what did you think, and was it like? 'Cause you guys had her then come to a game.
Yeah,
What was it like to have her at the game?
Yeah, it was funny. You know, I think I watched the video, 4 or 5 times. You know, it was just funny, kind of just hearing it. You know, and my mom got a kick out of it too, and I showed it to her. She loved it. But my first instinct was like, we got to find a way, you know, to get her we played Denver that night, and they just had to find a way to get her to the game.
Can you tell us your favorite player?
Donovan Mitchell.
She actually gave me cookies. Unfortunately, I couldn't eat them. You know, I'm trying to stay slim for playoffs, but they were awesome. You know, her dad Mitch, and I think her mom's name is McKenna. You know, they were both there, and a few other family members as well. But it was awesome to have her there. You know, she was on the jumbotron going crazy. Everybody was going nuts when they saw her. You know, she may not remember, you know, all that stuff, but like the fact that it's documented, I think
her parents will show her that video a lot.
For sure. So I'm hoping when she gets to like middle school, her friends will be like, "Oh, snap! Like that was you." But yeah, it was pretty special.
It's good. When you get your MVP, she can be in the audience.
Exactly.
There you go. Some of the fan interactions this year for the Jazz have not been positive. There was the incident with Russell Westbrook, fan yelling racially charged insults at him. You were one of the first players, even though it was one of your Jazz fans and you were on the other team, you were one of the first players to come out in support of Russ and his reaction. Why was that important to you?
I think it was huge because there's obviously an ongoing debate throughout this country about, you know, racial injustice. You know, you have what happened in the NFL with Colin Kaepernick, you know, the kneeling, you know, all different things. So I think for me, you know, as one of the guys in this franchise, I think it was big for us to, you know, say something. And what I really loved was the support we got from the Jazz, you know, because you've seen some stuff like this happen in other, you know, leagues, and the support isn't there. So, you know, for me, you know, it was more so I just gave a phone call, said, I'm going to say this, and it was like, go ahead. Like, you know, it wasn't like just, you know, obviously you tell the organization. Give them a heads up. And there was no like, well, be careful, you know, like, it was all like supportive. And for me, I was there. And Tabo, you know, Tabo was one of the, said it before I did, actually gave his support with Russ as well, obviously playing with Russ. You got to stick together in this league, you know, as African-American players, you know, and African American men, not just players, we it's different, and it's obvious in this world. So for me, as an African player for the Utah Jazz, I wanted it to be known that there's things that maybe people just don't know. I understand that. As a kid, I went to a predominantly white school, so like there was things that I knew as a kid that my friends had never experienced before. So it was more so just to keep people aware, and then when you have teammates like Kyle Korver who comes out, with what he did with the Players Tribune, it's great to have that within the organization, within this league, because it makes us as African American men, feel like, wow, like these guys have our back, in situations like that, and that's not acceptable. Whether it's here in Utah or wherever it is not acceptable. So I made sure, that. I said something because it means a lot, and we're on a platform where if we say something, people will listen, and I think that was the perfect time. Obviously it sucks that it happened here in Utah, but it happens everywhere, and I think for me, being able to use my platform to kind of voice my opinion, I think was really important.
Kyle wrote that article talking a lot about white privilege and what these incidents, sort of how they've affected him and what they've opened his eyes to. One of the things I thought was so well said in that article is he said, I'm a white guy who looks more like a lot of our fans than I do my fellow teammates. I don't have to have this conversation. My teammates have to have it whether they like it or not every day. They don't get to decide, I'm just not going to deal with race relations today. They don't have that option. Yeah. And he said, I want to make it so I don't have that option either because I shouldn't. We should all have to deal with it. Yeah. What did it mean to you that he recognized just even that level of things?
I think you saw how detailed and how in depth Kyle went with, with this whole article. I think with this whole situation, he asked guys, what he said about Thabo, after the incident in New York. For him to even admit that, is huge. I think it's one thing for African Americans and African American players, to go out and voice our opinion, but when you have Caucasians, going out there saying, look, this isn't right, a guy like Kyle and using his platform, I think to kind of show his support, I think that puts an even higher, a bigger stamp on it because, it allows you to say, look, we are in the wrong, and I think he was one of the guys that kind of say that he was wrong, and he's in his opinions as far as, with the incident with Thabo, with being able to say, I can't just shut this out today. I want to, we need to understand that there's two different worlds. There's two different Americas. There is, and for having him on my team and that teammate saying that, who isn't black, I think is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of it's just a side note, but it's funny. You can't just be like, hey, I'm prepping for the playoffs. I can't worry about being black in this white community today. Like, nobody gives you that option.
Exactly. It's not an option at all.
You don't get to do that.
Exactly.
So, all of that. You've had some great, I guess I would phrase it this way. The Utah community did seem to have your back and the players' backs and everything that went on with the fan. The Jazz certainly did. Yeah. And seeing that process with you particularly and the way everyone has embraced you has been such a special part of your story. They named a bridge out after you here. And where the arena sits, it sits on Stockton and Malone Avenues, basically. Yep. And then right across is your bridge. Yeah. So it's Stockton, Malone, and Donovan Mitchell. What did it feel like to have that happen?
To be honest, it caught me by surprise, and I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was.
It's a bridge.
I really didn't. I thought it was, I thought it was something small, like a small painting, and then I go and it's this big mural of me on there. There's a huge crowd of people, and I was taken back when I got there. I'm like whoa, like what is it? What is this? And it's been, that's just one instance, man. But they've been great to me here in Utah. They're awesome. Like I said, they love their basketball. They love, just showing support. And like I said, it reminds me of college. The kind of that feeling of just like the college town. And they've been. Whether it's the bridge, that was a blessing and an honor. Like, it was something I'll never forget. But with whatever it is, every time I go eat, people are like, well, sometimes they don't even ask for pictures, which isn't always the case. And people understand that that's huge, like people just sometimes just want to say hi and say good job. I think that goes a long way for me because there are times when I go back home to New York, you can't walk down the street, without somebody saying, we need to get a picture. Here it's like they just kind of let you, enjoy whether it's a meal or enjoy whatever you're doing, but they're they're so great, you know, and they're so laid back, but they're awesome at the same time.